Welcome to my channel, ketomealsandrecipes.com. Today I'm posting the last of my trifecta videos, which is going to feature one of my favorite gelato flavors, and by the way, it's also a frequently requested gelato recipe, which is an authentic Italian coffee gelato, or as it's known in Italy, Gelato al Caffè. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make this sugar-free, low-carb version, which, by the way, is perfect for all of us coffee lovers. This classic Gelato al Caffè is one of the most popular and timeless of all the Italian gelato flavors. And to create the most authentic Italian gelato taste, I'm going to use an Italian blend of expresso coffee. And that's because espresso coffee has a very long history and tradition in Italian culture. However, I do want to let you know that you can customize the taste of this coffee gelato by using a ristretto coffee. And if you're not familiar with that term, ristretto coffee is coffee which is ground very fine using espresso beans, and what you get is a very strong coffee taste. However, if you don't have espresso coffee on hand, or you find the taste too strong, you can make a milder tasting version, and you can control that by how fine or coarsely you grind your coffee, and even if you change the beans. For example, you could use French vanilla beans. I would again like to emphasize, coffee gelato is very easy to make at home. In order to understand why I use certain ingredients and why, please watch the entire video for all the detailed information. And lastly, as a bonus, if you enjoy learning about the history and origin of recipes, I will tell you a bit of history regarding the origin of gelato, so please support my channel and watch the video all the way to the end. For this authentic coffee gelato, the macronutrient ratio is 2.6 to 1. With 4.4 grams of total carbs, 0.3 grams of dietary fiber, resulting in 4.1 grams of net carbs per 80 gram or 3 very dense scooped servings. To begin with, this is a custard-based gelato, not a Sicilian-style gelato. And these are the ingredients you're going to need to make it. Before starting, one of the prep steps I like to do is to get a small cup, drop in my finely ground espresso, and a little bit of cinnamon powder. This will enhance the coffee flavor. You won't taste the cinnamon. Pour in my boiling hot water and stir, then just let it sit and steep for about 10 minutes. This will develop the flavor. And while my coffee is steeping, I get a saucepan into which I pour my milk and heavy whipping cream and drop in the sweetener. By the way, to get the most authentic flavor, I do use homogenized or 3.5% milk, but you can substitute with skim milk or even a nut or seed-based milk. Just get one that's very neutral in flavor because you don't want it to affect the final taste. Then place the saucepan onto your stove top, which you have set to medium-low heat. The first thing you want to do is bring the milk mixture to a very light simmer. And once it's simmering, continue cooking for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's because you want your sweetener to completely dissolve and not have a granular texture. And as the milk is heating, stir once in a while. And while your milk mixture is heating, you have time to do the next step. To a large mixing bowl, add your egg yolks and then just whisk them to break the egg yolks. And then drop in your milk powder. Whisk these two ingredients to a pale yellow stage. And as you can see after whipping, this has a very thick paste-like consistency, which is what it's supposed to be. Now that my milk mixture is ready, it's time to temper the yolk mixture by drizzling the warm liquid down the inside of my bowl. And of course, you have to be whisking continuously as you pour. I've explained this technique many times, but I really want to emphasize it because I have found that this tempering method is the best way to prevent your eggs from being scorched and curdling. At this point, the eggs are tempered but still raw, so we have to cook them a second time. Then pour everything back into the pot you were using before. Pour in your cup of water and coffee grinds and place the pot on your stovetop we're going to cook it a second time over medium-low heat. If you have an instant read thermometer, which I recommend very highly, heat to a temperature of 170 degrees Fahrenheit or 76-77 degrees Celsius. At this point, the custard is cooked perfectly. Then immediately remove your pot from the heat source. And what I like to do is place the saucepan into a nice water bath, like this. I prefer this method because I have found that the custard cools down much more quickly. However, while your custard is chilling, whisk the custard occasionally. You don't want a skin to form, and you want the temperature gradient to be agitated in the pot. The aim is to cool your custard to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4.5 degrees Celsius. At that point, it's perfect. And the next step I do is to pour the custard through a fine mesh sieve, and that's because I want to remove all the coffee grinds. To make things easier for myself, I pour my strained custard into a large measuring cup which has a spout. This makes it a lot less messy when I'm pouring the chilled coffee custard into my pre-chilled ice cream tub. Then, depending on your machine, if your machine has the settings set to gelato. And before I forget, I want to mention that if you have a machine that does not have a built-in compressor, remember to put the ice cream tub in the freezer overnight. Then just let the machine do its thing. When this gelato is done, it's at a really nice soft serve consistency. The texture is very velvety and the taste is very rich. And you can enjoy some at this point if you want. However, if you want to have it as a true gelato, you have to harden it a bit. So as per my usual, I transfer my gelato to a freezer-safe container with a snap-on airtight lid. And then just freeze for about 2 or 3 hours or until it has the texture that you prefer. But I want to mention that this coffee has a fair bit of caffeine in it, so it might not be the best flavor to have after dinner. You may prefer it earlier in the day because of the caffeine. Now for a bit of historical trivia. Gelato comes from the word congelato, which translates to frozen from Italian, which was originally created in the 16th century. Food historians are not sure who originally invented the gelato recipe. However, one of the most popular versions of the story is that Bernardo Bontalenti, a native of Florence, and is given the credit as the inventor of a form of modern gelato. He was a very interesting fellow and a polymath. He was also noted as an architect, theatrical designer, and a military engineer. And of course, inventor of gelato. When he made this gelato and served it to the court of Catherine de' Medici, she absolutely loved this delicious frozen treat. By the way, if you're not familiar with her, Catherine is a member of the famous de' Medici family. She was born in Florence, but at the age of 14, as was the custom of the time, she was betrothed to Henry II, who at the time was Duke of Orleans, and he was also the future King of France. Catherine became quite well known throughout France and was often referred to as Queen Mother. One of the things that Catherine was known for is bringing Florentine, Tuscan, and Sicilian recipes with her to her new home at Chateau de Bois. And as time passed, Catherine also began to have an influence on traditional French cuisine. And one last bit of history. From its origin in Florence, the popularity of gelato spread across the rest of Italy and then throughout Europe. Although I have made several more gelato flavors, I do need to move on from gelatos and post other recipes. However, I do have some good news. I will be posting at least 1 or 2 more gelato recipes at Christmas time, and that's because the remaining flavors I find more seasonally appropriate. Thank you very much for watching my video, especially all the way through. I appreciate your time and support. Until next time, have a very happy and healthy day. Cheers!